methodology. So it's exactly like a waterfall. Everything has sequence to it. You do task 1, then you do task 2, then you do task 3, then you do task 4. Okay, it's very sequential. So a lot of systems, a lot of software systems, software engineering projects will use this method called the waterfall approach. Now, with Agile, I'm going to do a comparison now against Agile. In Agile, you don't have that sequence. Okay, you can do task 1 and task 2 concurrently. You can do task 2 and task 4 concurrently. Okay, so that's the take on Agile. Whereas with waterfall, it goes sequentially. Okay, so you have task 1, then you go to task 2, then you go to task 3. Okay, you can't do this task concurrently. It doesn't allow you that flexibility. Okay, so this is the comparison I can give you, the quick comparison. Okay, sequential and non-sequential. Okay, Agile is non-sequential, waterfall is sequential. Agile easily adapts to if there's changes. Okay, whereas the waterfall doesn't really adapt to changes because it knows exactly what the outcome is going to be like. Okay, so far so good. Any questions regarding Agile and the comparison I did with waterfall approach?
We're all good up to here.
Yeah,
okay, good. Okay, the next thing is stats. Okay, obviously the stat is a bit outdated, but still it's worthwhile looking into it. Now the stat says a group of 17 people call itself the Agile Alliance, and they come up with this principle of using Agile in software development. Okay, now in this software development, they come to have these values or objective they're trying to follow. Okay, now to make this story in a very simple way is what they're trying to say is, in order to develop the system, this Agile has a push factor. This push factor is to make people communicate as many times as possible. That's what the Agile is trying to do. So when I come to Scrum, you will understand what do I mean by that, where people have to communicate. The principle itself, the Agile principle itself, has a push factor to make this group of teams, this group of team members, to communicate with each other, to interact with each other, to brainstorm, to study the progress of how well the direction of the project is going, and making the user, that means the person who's actually going to use the system, to involve more often. Okay, that's exactly what they're trying to say here. Okay, so that's a simple version of it. So Agile principle, even when it comes to software development, okay, it also takes the principle of interaction more seriously. Okay, why? Because the more you interact, obviously you will understand what the expectations are. That's one thing, but also the adaptability to changes as well can be found, identified, and applied at an early stage of the project as well. Okay, so in other words, it is more flexible, okay, throughout that life cycle. Okay, so in other words, what's happening here, you will have SDLC from our previous PowerPoint slide, the previous workshop. We talked about SDLC, okay, System Development Life Cycle. Okay, you still will follow that System Development Life Cycle. Okay, however, you will integrate this Agile principle as well. Okay, So far, if you know this, that's fine. Okay, that's just the basic understanding of it. Okay. Now, the next thing is also a bit on what Agile is. You got an iterative and incremental approach. That means you go step by step, smaller pieces by pieces. Okay, you don't do everything. You don't look at it as a whole thing. You go pieces by pieces. Okay, so that piece by piece, that specific piece of work, you need to finish it. Okay, and then you contemplate on how well you have done or how not so well you have done, whether you have met all the expectations for that one piece of work, and then before you move on to the next piece of work. Okay, in that one piece of work, you would have many tasks that you can do concurrently. Okay, so that's pretty much what Agile project management is all about. So it's a lot of subsets of the product. So you got the one whole main product, but you got a many steps. Like the example I gave you, the main concept of my project is to develop a calculator that customers can use this calculator and put in all their equipments and put in all their the voltage and so on. Okay, the amps will be automatically given depending on the devices. Okay, the calculator will automatically bring up the amps. You just have to put the voltage, 250 voltage or something like that. Okay, or 220 voltage or like that. Now, once you put in the voltage, it will put in the amps for you. It will do the calculation and you get the wattage. Okay, once you get all the voltage, the calculator will tell you this is the best sort of UPSs you can implement in your network and so on. And the backup power is blah, blah, blah. So this is the main project, the main concept. However, the subset of it was the mobile application and the web-based portal application. So the subset of it. Okay. So then you got to meet the client expectation of that mobile, and then you have the web-based as well. Okay. So in this case, using sequential methodology won't work, so it's a bit hard. So therefore, an agile methodology actually works in case you want to put in more function in that mobile application in the future or while you're working at it. Okay, so either way, it allows you to apply changes a lot more easily without incurring more cost to your managing of the project. Okay. Now, in Agile project management, there are certain terminologies we use it very differently. Okay, the roles and responsibilities of so-called project manager also kind of changes. So his name changes, and then the role he's playing is also changes. Okay, he doesn't become the what we call an authorization figure. Okay, he doesn't become an authorization figure, but he becomes more of a facilitator to see, okay, how about you team? Do you have enough resources to do this? What is lacking here? Are you guys doing enough communication with each other? If there's a problem, maybe he'll think of a solution to help out the team to move forward and so on. Okay, so he's more like someone who allows a resourceful manager. In other words, he becomes a guide to be sure that you have enough resources to do your work, all the small pieces of work that you have. So making sure that you have enough resources to start these small pieces of work and to complete the small pieces of work. And in between, if you have problems, you will try to solve the problems and so on. Okay, so his role and responsibilities becomes more of a facilitator than more of a authorized figure, an authorization figure. Okay. All right. Now, benefits of an agile project. Okay, why do we have agile in the first place? First of all, not all projects will require agile. Okay, let's say I'm developing a customer relationship management. Okay, I'm developing a system called, it doesn't matter if it's a off-shelf software or an in-house development, but the system is going to be implemented, CRM. In that case, I won't be using Agile. Most probably, I will be using a waterfall approach, or something that is more sequential. Okay, um, maybe any system that I have to use it in the retail industry, a retail management system, something. Okay, I will try to use a more waterfall approach. So it all depends on the kind of project that you're using. Not all project will require waterfall, and not all project will require waterfall methodology. So you need to be able to identify which one requires which. Okay, and most importantly, the characteristic you will be trying to see is to see whether this system, the end product, do you know how the end product is going to look like at all? Okay, do you know exactly that this is what the system is trying to achieve? Okay, so let's say, for example, you have enterprise system. You want to implement, okay, let's say you're a SAP consultant and you're a functional SAP consultant, okay, and you're trying to implement this enterprise system. Now, when you do that, quick question, will you be using Agile or will you be using waterfall approach, a sequential approach? Just a very quick way of brainstorming here.
Sequential?
Waterfall.
Waterfall.
Yeah, a lot of you are saying waterfall, sequential, and the answer is correct. Okay, you will be using sequential. Okay, because you know how the enterprise system is going to look like. It's already there. It's given to you. The service provider, the application provider, sorry, has already given you. This is the software. You know, you just have to implement it. It's just a matter of how you're going to implement it because of data migration and making sure that you have captured the right information and so on. Okay, right. So Agile is always very much easier to do if you are doing like a smaller project of a greater concept, if that makes sense. Okay, a smaller project of a greater concept. Okay, so in that way, adaptability to changes, it becomes more applicable and viable, and you will not compromise the credibility of the project, because the more it becomes, if it's a big project and you're breaking it into smaller piece of work, which is fine, but what happens is you are using the Agile only for that small piece of work. Okay, and then after a while, you will see it's all matching up together to form that bigger picture of the project. Okay, so like I said, you got to understand when and how, and when you will apply this. Okay, now one of the benefit of Agile, my favorite, is tacit knowledge. Okay, now tacit knowledge meaning these are knowledge that you cannot know that people have it, because these are knowledge via experience, through experience in their job over a period of time. So you would see these people working in a company for 10, 20 years, and the amount of knowledge that they have gathered in that period of time is priceless. Okay, that is what we call tacit knowledge. Now we want to bring that up. We want to bring that tacit knowledge up. That's what Agile methodology is. IBM was a pioneer in doing this. He's using Agile methodology purely because it wanted to invest in tacit knowledge among its employees. Okay, it sees the value. IBM was able to identify the value employees have when it comes to tech seed knowledge. Okay, they can give you, okay, more than someone who knows how to program or coding. That's good, but you want that humanistic approach as well. Okay, you need to know exactly how to go about doing things when you face non-technical problems. Okay, so tech-seed knowledge comes in. So tech-seed knowledge applies in management, how to manage the project, time management, resource allocation, which resources are the best to go with, which are cost-effective resources to go with. Just by knowing programming and coding doesn't help in this situation. Okay, that's the point they are trying to make. And Agile also brings the team together to increase their commitment to the project. Now, why? Because remember, I was telling you, Agile, the main objective of Agile is to increase interaction, okay? To increase interaction among their team members. The more they interact, the more they exchange ideas and exchange what has been done to date, or to explore the potential of the project. It allows them somehow, okay, psychologically, somehow, it allows them to increase the commitment to the project as well. Okay, now back in those days, I won't say back in those days, but the old traditional method, like a waterfall method, project manager is has the authority of everything. Okay, so the project manager what he says is done. Okay, but in this case, that's not the case. Okay, is the customer, the client, or the user who's going to use the system is the person who will be running the whole show. So the project manager is only, like I said, remember I said, is just a mere facilitator, where just to see if everyone has their resources, enough resources to do what they need to do. Okay. Other than that, the person who actually drives the requirements and actually overlooking the outcomes and things like that is the user himself. In this case, they say customer is the king. Okay, the user. The person who's actually going to use the system, the client, is actually the person who will be running the whole show. All right, and there are a few other benefits here as well, which you can have a quick read later. Now, you are asked to watch this video, Agile versus Waterfall. So please watch this video if you could. I'll give you the... Oops. I'll give you the link now, and you can have a quick view on this video, and after that we'll come back and then you can discuss what have you learned from this video. Meaning, I just want to know, give me one or two comparison between Agile and Waterfall. Okay. Sorry, my mouse can't find my mouse. You know how sometimes the cursor just goes